All right, everybody. So it's almost been 20 days since I graduated, and I am home right now. So I thought, you know what? Let's go over the 10 best Minnesota sports moments in the college era. All right. Now I'm going to give you some of the best, but not all of it has to be the best. So you'll see what's at number one. So let's get started. But this right here, this is an honorable mention. The Timberwolves beating the Nuggets in 6 games. Yes, even when they did it without, excuse me, and Io and Dante DiVincenzo, they survived without those guys. But sadly, after that, the Timberwolves tried their best, obviously, against the Spurs, but they lost in 6. So, hey, it was fun while it lasted. So, anyways, moving on to the real list. Number 10, we have the Minnesota Wild winning their first playoff series since 2015. Yes, this was recently, but it's still going to make the list because the Wild had lost 8 straight playoff first round exits. They came close, but they just weren't able to get out of the first round. Even when acquiring Quinn Hughes, who was a Vancouver Canuck at the time, the Wild did a lot better than anyone else expected them to be. They were a better team than they were years ago. They started off the record and finished with a record of 45, 23, and 12. And then they finished as the third seed and were facing the Dallas Stars, who were the second seed in the first round. And what happens? Well, the Wild ended up winning game one, they lost the next two, and wound up winning the next three. And finally, winning their first playoff series since 2015. And this also happened the same night the Timberwolves did beat the Nuggets, so yeah, we'll count it. But anyways, that was a crazy night though. Well, at least for me though. But so the way I look at it, this was awesome. Next up, we got the time the Minnesota Vikings came back and won 39-36 over the Colts. So this was recently freshman year of college, okay? So the Minnesota Vikings, they were a really good team. Despite obviously having not too much of a great defense, they started off really, really good. And then they were supposed to have a chance beating the Colts easily. Everybody's saying, oh, this is going to be an easy game until it wasn't. The Vikings were down 33 to nothing at halftime until they came back, tied the game 36-36, and in overtime, with 1 minute remaining, they kicked the game-winning field goal and won the game. That was the biggest, largest comeback ever in the NFL history. Since literally the Denver Broncos overcame a 31-point deflect to tie the Buffalo Bills in the 1960 AFL season, or when the Bills came back and beat the Oilers, who were now the Tennessee Titans now, in the 1992 Wild Card playoff game. Like, that was crazy, It was so crazy. I was at that game, I was like, is this really happening? Did this really happen? Yes, it did. That was like literally a movie. Not even kidding you. Next up at number 8, give me the time. The Minnesota Timberwolves swept the Phoenix Suns in the first round. The first round, winning their first playoff series since 2004. The Timberwolves had not won a playoff series since 2004, and they're a really good team. They were the third seed, but the problem was they were facing Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns. But the problem was the Suns swept the Wolves in the regular season, but the Timberwolves said, we're going to pay you back. And everyone's thinking, oh, Suns in 5, Suns in 6, Suns in 7, Suns in 6. However, the Wolves beat the Suns and swept them in 4 games. winning their first playoff series in 20 years. And moving on to the conference semifinals, which we'll get to that later on. This was sophomore year and it was about to be ending. I was really happy that I finally got to see one. I was 11 months old when they last won a playoff series back in 2004 when they did that. And now, looking at it right now, I finally got to really see one. So yeah. We'll get to that other one, the big moment more and more as the list gets. Alright, moving along. Next up on the list, we have the time the Timberwolves and Kevin Garnett reunited. Now, everybody knows Kevin Garnett. He's the greatest Minnesota Timberwolves player of all time, and arguably one of the greatest of all time. But the only problem was, his number hasn't been retired yet. Why? Well, mainly because it all had to do with his relationship with former owner Glenn Taylor. He wouldn't do business with Taylor because he referred to him as a snake, so he kind of kept his distance from him and the franchise for years. However, Glenn Taylor decided to finally sold the Timberwolves and the Lynx to Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, and what happened? Garnett renewed ties with the organization and the Timberwolves, promising to retire his jersey. And he's also an ambassador. He's not returning as a player, he's just returning as an ambassador. Yeah. So this was back in December, and he's back with the franchise, and hopefully we'll see his jersey retired soon. It's really, really great. Even, of course, I got his jersey for Christmas, so came at a perfect timing. Anyways, KG, welcome back, and I hope I'll see your numbers on the Raptors at Target Center. Next up, we got the time Minnesota and Buffalo in November, where Justin Jefferson made the absolute catch of his life. So you all know Justin Jefferson. He's obviously the best receiver on the team. He's the best player on the Vikings. But this was back when the Vikings had Kirk Cousins, KOC. This was Kevin O'Connell's first season. And the Vikings came into Buffalo with low expectations. Obviously, maybe it will be a close game. Maybe they will lose. Maybe they'll just be Buffalo will win. However, the Vikings were down by 4, I think. And Justin Jefferson made the absolute catch that everyone was shocked to see. On a 4th down and 18, they got into the end zone but failed 4 times. Josh Allen tried to get out of the end zone, but the ball came loose. The Vikings recovered it for a touchdown. Then the Bills tied the game. At the last second, going into overtime, the Vikings then scored a field goal. The Bills tried to win the game, but Josh Allen threw a costly interception, and the Vikings beat the Bills in overtime. Like, that was a game. That was the game of 2022. Like, that was the game of that week 10. That was a miracle for the Vikings, and Justin Jefferson had the most incredible catch I've ever seen. Like, he is Randy Moss 2.0. Next up, we got the Timberwolves 2024-2025 postseason run. So, yes, the Timberwolves had a really, really, really good year last season in 2023-2024 season. However, the team got rid of Karl-Anthony Towns because Cal was really expensive. So they traded him to the Knicks for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. And they started off rough, but they ended the season very solid as a 6th seed. And who were they playing in the playoffs for the first round? LeBron James and Luka Doncic, who was traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers. And everyone was thinking, Shannon said, Lakers in 5. Lakers in 5. And Anthony Edwards was like, hell no. It's Wolves in 5. And Anthony Edwards was right. More like everyone's said, Lakers get eliminated in 5. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop doing all that. That's really annoying. The Wolves beat the Lakers in 5, And everyone was shocked that they actually did. Shannon lied, Luka cried, LeBron tried, Wolves in 5. Then the Wolves faced Golden State in the next round and beat them in 5, which the Warriors didn't have Steph Curry, though. You could really debate that. And made it back to the Western Conference Finals for the second time since 2004. Yeah. Everyone was like, is this real life? Yeah, and they made it back to the conference finals, but lost to the Thunder. But hey, still a good run, though. And they are still, I mean, I was still happy for them, even especially with Outcat. I think both teams did fine with this trade, though. And yeah, that was literally the most surprise I've ever seen from the Wolves this season. I mean, last season, before this season. Everyone's expecting low expectation for this team, and then obviously they were like, "No, we're still back." Still, one more time for the memes, y'all. Lakers in 5. Next up, we got the Twins ending their playoff series with playoff win drought. The Twins hadn't won a playoff game since 2004, mostly because of the New York Yankees, Astros, or something like that, yeah. But in 2023, they started out decent at best, then it got better over and over, and they made the playoffs as the as the third seed of the American League wildcard teams, and were facing the Toronto Blue Jays, and hopefully to end their playoff win drought. They were facing the Toronto Blue Jays with Pablo Lopez pitching, who was traded to the Twins in exchange for Luis Arraez. And Lopez dominated, and of course, Royce Lewis hit a 2-run home run to get the game going and give the Twins their first lead of the game. And then later on in the game, he hit another home run. It was a solo home run to right field, yeah. Lopez dominated pitching, the bullpen did their job, and the Twins beat the Blue Jays 3-1, ending that playoff win drought, winning their first playoff game since 2004, 18 home games in the process. The longest streak ever, and it was finally put to rest. I remember how excited I was during that sophomore year time, and I was really, really excited to see that happen. So Royce Lewis, thank you, and thank you for ending that drought, and I will never forget about you. And I'll never forget about that moment. But we'll get to that next game later on. We'll get to that later. Next up, we have the redemption of Sam Darnold. Now, y'all don't know this. Sam Darnold started as a quarterback for the Jets, playing from 2018 up until 2020. And how did he do? Well, he was really, really bad in New York, playing for the Jets. Then he went to the Panthers. He did nothing there. Then he went to the Niners, where he was just a backup for Brock Purdy. And then when the Vikings drafted J.J. McCarthy, McCarthy got hurt. And who comes in? Sam Darnold. And what did everyone else expect? Everyone thought he was going to be terrible. Until Darnold proved everyone wrong. They started off shockingly 5-0, lost the next 2, and ended season 14-3, almost winning the NFC North. It had been for the Lions, who, yeah, they ruined it for us, but it was still a surprising one. Everyone's thinking, is Sam Darnold really good again? And so, yeah, he was really good that season, and he really did a lot better than anyone else expected it to be. He had the best season of his career, but the Vikings lost to the wildcard round to the Rams, and yeah, that was really like, I'm not giving up. I'm proving everyone else wrong. He was really, really spectacular that year, and he was really like, I'm him. So after that year, Sam Darnold went to the Seahawks and won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks because the Vikings decided to roll with J.J. McCarthy, but it was nice to run with Sam Darnold, and I'll never forget it. So Sam Darnold, thank you, and I'll never forget you. Next up on the list is, I think this is our runner-up, the Twins winning their first playoff series in 21 years, beating the Blue Jays. So the Twins won game one, and then the next day they had to win one more game to advance to the next round and win their first playoff series since 2002. Sonny Gray was starting, Jose Barrios, who was a former Twin, was starting, and while some controversy happened with the, pulling Barrios out of the game, even though they just gave up a runner on base, they decided to pull him out, and the Twins dominated with pitching. They won the game 2-0, winning their first playoff series since 2002, losing 9 straight playoff series wins. 9 straight playoff losses. And the drought was over 21 years. They finally did it. And I finally got to see one because, fun fact, I was actually at that game. Yeah, it was a happy moment in my lifetime, and I'll never forget that. But sadly, after that, the Twins haven't been the same like that since. They're maybe bad, but it was fun while it lasted, and I always have a memory of that. But coming in at number 1 is the Timberwolves beating the Denver Nuggets in 7 games. So the Wolves just made it to the next round, facing Denver, and they won the first 2 games in Denver, but when they went back to Minnesota, they lost the next 2, then lost the next game, and were down 3-2, and everyone's like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're doomed. Then game 6, they beat the Nuggets hardly, like beating them down. Really, really good. They won game 6 easily. Then game 7, it looked like it was all going to be it. We were going to lose game 7 and just be eliminated and just have one playoff series win since 2004 until they came back in like the second half of game 7, beating the Nuggets 98-90 and advancing to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since Kevin Garnett did it on the exact same day 20 years ago that day. All thanks to Anthony Edwards, Cat, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, and so many other more. They made it back to the Western Conference Finals but lost to the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games. But overall, it is a number 1, and I have no questions about it. And of course, the Timberwolves did make it back to the Western Conference Finals the following year. And wouldn't you know, they did the absolute impossible. Like, nobody could deny how great it was. And to Denver, we still own you for that. And that's going to be for this video, everybody. I hope you all had a good time. And I'm sorry if I feel like this was repeating it. But I just obviously wanted to do it because, I graduated about almost 20 days ago. So I hope you all had fun with it. And I hope you all did. And y'all know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. It'll be appreciated. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.